Hello, listeners of the Art Versations
Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Art Versations, or welcome if this is your first tune in. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Bri, like the cheese, and I will be your host for the next hour. I have some lovely people with me right now. I'm very excited to announce that this is the season finale episode. With me is Sarah Gervais.
Hi, pronounced Gervais.
Gervais.
Silent S.
I'm French too. Like I speak French, and I didn't.
How many times have I told you how to pronounce my last name?
You have. Told me a lot of times.
You almost got it. Hi, so glad to be here. Love you so much.
Love you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm also here with Izzi Nagel.
Hello.
Who's been waiting so patiently to speak.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I'm so happy. And also, we have Luke Kimball as well.
Hello.
Yay!
Luke just waved.
It's just an auditory medium.
Yeah,
I'll wait for
gestures
your
don't get
benefits.
picked up on audio podcasts.
It's just for the three of you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here and
Oh,
for your
my
time.
goodness. No, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I feel really excited to have you all because we worked on a project recently together. The ever exciting Zoom play called Pandemic Play, written
The first
by
good
our
Zoom
own
play
Sarah
ever.
Gervais. Yeah, the first Zoom play and hopefully the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to start us off with just something that I think a lot of artists are dealing with right now, the lack of motivation to continue to create. So what's keeping you inspired right now? Everyone talking once.
I mean, I have a couple things for once in my life, and it kind of goes back to why I did the pandemic play. I mean, I like the script a lot, and when you reached out and to work with you, Sarah, and Izzi, and at that point I didn't even know that you were going to be on the project, but that these were all draws. But actually, the reason that I wanted to do it was because I needed something to do. My motivation comes from just having a project to focus on, something that I'm passionate about. So right now I'm lucky that I'm doing a run of a play, The Zoo Story. So that's keeping me motivated and artistically interested. And I'm working on a workshop reading of something called 86 Me, which is a new Canadian play that we're.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That's right, with Jackson Donor.
Yeah, with Jackson Donor, which he
Fantastic.
wrote and he's directing, and we're doing a staged reading of it just because he wants a chance to hear it out loud and get in a space where people can hear it, and he can sort of just get to see what people think of it outside of his own brain. And he's got a really great cast assembled. There's Ben Yoganathan, there's Sienna Singh, there's Jackson Donor's directing it. I'm in it producing Davon Steele.
Isabel Ellis is in it?
Isabel Ellis, and and someone who I didn't know before this. I'll find the name, Zoe, and she's really great.
Zoe Barrett Wood.
Zoe Barrett Wood. Why do you know that?
I have a weird memory.
Oh my god, amazing!
I read the cast list and it's great.
And it's just in there, Zoe Barrett Wood, and she's so great. I hadn't seen her, and we did our first reading last night, and she's so great with a really challenging part. And then a good friend of mine, Jeff Gruich, is doing it as well, who is in friend of ours, who is in Pandemic Play.
Podcast.
Friend of the
Podcast.
friend of the team. So anyway,
Fantastic.
I've got such an unhealthy relationship that I got to work through, but in terms of artistic motivation, it comes from having something to do. So I'm not comfy in the in-between, which is not a great thing. However, maybe the good thing is that it does make me try to keep finding projects.
Right. So, well, I mean, downtime is needed to sort of inform what happens next. But I feel it's nice to know that I get to wake up and do something already planned.
Yeah.
It's not just me in my brain trying to write something or,
Yeah, and I'm lucky that I have a lot of really creative people around me, like Sarah, to write plays that I get to with Izzy put on. So that helps a lot with keeping that motivation, keeping that going. But anyway, so that's what's keeping me going for now. I do have some downtime coming up.
Good.
Pretty intentional vacation time. But but yeah, that's what's keeping me going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Izzy, what about you? How do you find like motivation?
I'm somewhere where I have to be like go
Doing something. Yeah.
go. So like that's fine. I'm working a full-time job, so that's what I'm doing a lot of the time, and
Fantastic.
like which is good, but it keeps me busy because I do have to be busy. But I do struggle a little bit to then like have the energy to come home and like read a play or like care about something or like write something or do a good job on an audition. Like it's balancing all those things.
Absolutely.
Which is hard. But yeah, I don't know. I like similar with Luke, like I try to just like bop around with like the people that I'm with, and I find things just come up if you're with the right people. And
So true.
And like inspiration comes up if you're with the right people, and like you can keep yourself motivated with a village.
Yeah.
That's kind of my go-to process a little bit there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so like true and valid, and like working a job, like you get the money, you have the schedule, like all of that stuff is needed for future
for
time
life
when
things.
Yeah. So you can live past
for
25.
like my rent, yeah.
And it's like sometimes maybe being away and like quote unquote working a normal job, like for me it helps to see the world outside of the like artistic people that I talk to, and like knowing that the person at the grocery store who works like 9 to 5 every day like still has a story to tell, still has creativity within them. Do you find too like you said, like finding the right people to work with, like when it's not working, you know what I mean, like it's like as soon as I meet people that I just are not vibing with, how do you like work out of that to find motivation?
I find just like balancing it with like, and this is a life thing too, but like not I find even when I'm like interacting with somebody either like in a work environment, in like a creative environment, or just like life environment, and it's like not the vibe so much, I'm just like, great, I'll like call my friend who is definitely the vibe and like remind myself that I have that. Or
cool.
like, oh, I'm doing this project and like it didn't feel amazing, but like I'm just gonna go read or write something that I do really care about. And it's a similar thing of just like balancing it out and like remind yourself of the good people and like your actual team. Like whenever you're feeling lost, I try to do that.
Totally.
I'm the king of just like calling a friend after I've had like a bad talk with someone. I'm just like, let's just chat. Like, and I'll just like wash my slate clean of like, look at my good pals. So
I also think, like, not to speak for you, but that Izzy doesn't really find herself in those situations where she doesn't get along with the people that she's working with. That's not actually something you encounter all that much, because you're really good at making it work, and to a certain extent, it's a job too, like, and you're really great about that. As you find your friends outside of the job, and you remind yourself like, oh, I can be happy with the friends. But when it comes to creative or collaborative environments, you're so great. You don't have to love everyone. You can just like work with them and have it be a job, and then let that go. You make it work for the day, and then you can really enjoy the other stuff. You want to enjoy it, but if it doesn't work out, that's okay too. But
it still is a job.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't need to have all of the other stuff in there, and you're really great about it. So that way, you've never encountered people not working well with you.
Thanks, sweets.
Yeah. Collaboration is like difficult at its bare minimum, but like when you find those people that can really just like invigorate me, like, and because we've had this lull or this like weird time of being away from, and we also graduated at the same time, like it's like. Like as soon as the pandemic hit, I was like out of my community. I was out of my schedule. I was like, I don't have any motivation. Like I have nothing to hold on to right now. How can I, drag myself through the mud and find it again? I don't know about you, Sarah, but like, I know you're not in a project. You're still in process, and you spoke to me about like trusting that.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has definitely been a lesson in like realizing my humanity outside of like my artistry, because like I started so young. I started like the first thing I ever did was like a 3-month run of Seussical, 8 shows a week. I was like 2 years old, and I just never stopped. Like quite literally since then was always doing something.
Were you actually 2? Or
No,
is that
I was 8.
okay.
I turned 9.
I was like, oh my god.
Oh, she played Horton. When
Yeah,
she
I was
2.
actually. I played the egg.
You're the bird.
Yeah, right. But you could be like,
I was actually a bird. I played a bird and I played a who child, and I alternated between the two. And my one line was, "It came without ribbons."
Nice.
Wow.
I was
Wow.
in director's
Wow.
school where I played a Who Child. You want to hear what my line was?
It came without packages.
I went. The future's in your hands.
Oh, they made that a solo line.
Yeah.
Deep, philosophical.
Carry on.
I know that libretto like the back of my hand. I know that is a group line. But yeah, so I just like started super young by accident, like got the bug, like and literally never stopped. Like I was always doing something, like sometimes more than one thing. Like in high school, I remember I had this system where I was like, okay, so in the summer I do this thing, and then in the fall I do this, and then I'll also be doing this, and then I'll do my serious play, and then in the summer I'll do this again, and like it was just always going and going and going.
Kind of like your life revolved around your projects.
Yeah, and then I got into theater school, and I spent the summer before theater school doing a play, a musical, and then I got to theater school, and then in between first and second year I did a fringe play, and then in between second and third year I like worked at a camp, but I like directed the musicals there. Third year I went to Greece with Luke, which was an amazing time, and we did a show there. And like, of course, all through theater school I was doing my theater school.
Yeah, other stuff,
And then the world ended, and so I was like, oh my god, like what the I can cuss.
You can
like
absolutely. I should
like
mention that.
What the bloody motherfuck am I gonna do now?
Right?
Because this was like
dove right in.
I had to.
It felt that intense.
Yeah,
right?
so I spent a long time like being really comatose, honestly, like just feeling like, what am I gonna do? And I'm pretty lucky. I know Izzy and Luke can relate. Like I have an agent, and so I've been taping like relatively regularly for like film and TV projects, so that's something I'm really grateful for, and something I have to keep reminding myself is like when I feel like I'm not an actor anymore, when I feel like I'm not a performer anymore, just because I haven't like performed in so long, I'll get a tape and I'll be like, okay, this is doing the thing, even if I was, in the real world, this is still doing the thing, this is part of the thing. So I think like, yeah, I've just been kind of reclaiming my humanity, finding fulfillment outside of the work. Because I realized that it was all I ever did was the work, and I love it. And like if the opportunity arose to just continue doing the work for the rest of my life, I guarantee I would feel like fulfilled and happy and good. But that's not the reality right now. No. So I'm trying to find the silver lining, and the silver lining is like figuring out who I am. So yeah, like Izzy, I have a full-time job. I work at Shopify.
You're literally a nocturnal animal, right?
I am. Yeah, I work nights. I work 9 to 5, but nights. So
stunning.
Yeah,
like
let's just promote which Sarah was doing during the busiest, most hectic period of pandemic play.
Yeah. So that was I went from being never busy to always doing the busy.
Like
literally
around the
24 hours a day.
Yeah, so that was strange, but like I love my coworkers, and a member of my team whose stage name is, I'm not going to say it actually, I shouldn't say it, but I'll tell you after the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic stage name. I just don't know if I should name drop him, who is an actor, so I get the chance to like talk about the acting thing
sweet.
in Shopify.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I'm trying to trust the process, which sounds hippy dippy and like loopy doopy, but I have to believe that if something inside of me tells me this is what you're meant to be doing, this is what you're good at, this is what your life path and soul calling is, weird as that sounds, like then there is a way for you, and there is a path for you. So as long as I just keep going along, like doing what I'm doing, like writing and auditioning, and then I know something will happen. It's just a matter of when and where and how.
The waiting.
Yeah, but I'm just trying right now. I'm just trying to not identify my like worth as a human so much with like how many projects I'm doing and where I'm going and like, which is great. And like, I would, you know, that's also a lovely thing to be doing, but it's just not my reality right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to like, not like value myself based on the projects I'm doing, but also like, I lost my train of thought, but also find meaningful ways to like still identify as an artist.
Yeah,
and I can still
right?
learning that like I can still identify as an artist even if I'm not doing the art in that very moment. You know what I mean?
That was such a big thing for me in isolation, quarantine. Like, I was also alone. Like, my roommate moved away, kind of like Frankie in the play. Like, I was just like, okay, well, it's me in my apartment. I don't have access to a studio. I don't have access to other people because we can't even, like, at that time, we couldn't even bubble or anything. Yeah. What else is there for me to identify with or relate to? Because, like you, I'm very much like a working person, and that makes me an artist. So I started like making TikTok videos and playing piano again when I used to do that as a kid, and like dancing for fun instead of for a project that, you know, has to be like perfect and everything. And yeah, I think it's really important as artists for us to know that our worth isn't revolving around our works, even though we are working. Like, being a human, like you were saying, Izzy, is like number one for sure. And in the case of you, Luke, like, you are working a lot, but I know that you're still like, you have Elena, like you have your new place, like you have other things that like are you, and the work is just the job that you go to and you work for, and it like,
yeah. And I mean,
do you know what I mean?
I do. And like, quite frankly, like I've had like a tiny little stroke, a few strokes of luck that have happened, but for me, it's like part of the work is like, I think I'm saying something sort of along the lines that Izzy and I took an acting class with someone named Sean Benson, who's really great. Check out his class if you're hearing this. It's a Meisner class. He's so great and smart, and he's a lot of great little like wisdom nuggets to drop. But for me, part of the work is like it's like not riding the peaks and valleys. It's like kind of trying to maintain a happy medium with the full knowledge that like. You know, thank God, like right now I've been a little bit lucky getting a few things, and not really that many, but that I know that once this ends, there's gonna be like a really dry period. That's just inevitable. So just kind of letting it be while it is and not clinging to that as an identity. It's like, because I'm working now, I'm an actor, and when I'm not, it's like, no, I'm trying to and failing and succeeding sometimes, but like not hold the bat too tightly. It's like, no, it's good right now, but it'll pass. And I'll still be the same person then when I'm not working as I am now.
Absolutely.
Sean also talks about like your garden, like watering your garden. I think that's a similar thing of like, I remember being like, okay, like what else is in my garden? I'm like, my friends in my garden, like I'm learning to sew, like that's my garden. And, you know, like just having other things in your life, so all your self-worth isn't reliant.
Yeah, like I've realized how, and I think I always knew this, but I've realized how small the creative sector really is in contrast with like the rest of the world. Like when I tell my coworkers at Shopify, other than the one who's an actor, that I'm an actor, it's so foreign and separate from their experience. Like it's like to us it's everything. But then when you speak to people who have like Shopify is like their job, you know, like they don't consider it a job, they consider it like their job,
the thing, yeah,
like their life is their friends and their kids and their you know, hobbies. Like I'm recognizing that like there is so much more to like a full experience as a human being than like if you're creative, then your creativity, you know, like and I'm still learning how to get there, you know, like it's not as though I've figured it all out, like but I think yeah, just the pandemic has been like a good lesson in quelling pointless rage.
Say that again.
Quelling pointless rage. Because
snap.
Yeah.
because I've had a lot of that, and a lot of like angry at the world, angry at, and like by proxy angry at everyone for being in it, you know, like because I can't do my plays anymore, you know, like, and then I speak to anyone else, and like it's just such a foreign concept to that, and the idea of like the amount of times like a coworker has been like, oh yeah, well my career began and ended with, you know, the Sound of Music in grade 9. I played Friesel or whatever the fuck, like so like
the Elsa version of Liesel.
I did the Sound of Music. That's not even a character. Friesel and Dazel, yes.
Oh, Frederick and Liesel?
I think you combined
Friedrich
them.
and Liesel, yeah.
I'm not getting that, okay.
But yeah, so it's just like just recognizing that there's so much more to life than I thought. And that sounds naive, and I always knew, but like just learning how to experience those things. And we're in a pandemic, so like it's hard because it feels like a double-edged sword, because you're like, go out, experience the world, like live your life, like learn who you are outside of the thing, but then there's nothing to do outside of like you can only go on so many goddamn walks, and you know,
stores being abandoned and everything, and like the like dry spell that went on in Toronto downtown, like where like no one was living here at some points, like that to me was like a big wake up call of like, is there still room for art? Like, are we still able to create?
Well, let me like, can I like somewhat awkwardly shoehorn that into like a conversation about like how much it does remind me of like, as much as I want to have a life outside of art, also how important it is that like without it it's so tragic, and that like when, you know, I'm keeping so much of an eye on Australia right now because their theater sector is like just getting decimated, and it keeps getting the reopen keeps getting pushed back, and it's so there's just not clear guidance as far as I can tell. I'm looking at it from the outside, so I don't want to make too much of a judgment of something that I really don't understand. But and I'm in contact with someone over there too that's going through it a little bit. So that's my other in. But that it's just like. It's really unfortunate to me when governments like overlook this, because really, and I'm not the first person to say this, but like we all turn to like Netflix and all of these like artistic things that it's like
you can watch season 5 of Workin Moms on that Luke Kimball.
And there's the plug.
That's what he was trying to get.
Yeah, that was the whole point of that conversation.
Great job, thank you.
I want to tell the listeners that our group chat photo of the 4 of us is a screenshot of Luke in Working Moms.
That's right, it is. Thanks to Sarah.
His character's name is Bennett Brewer.
Yeah, great. Young conservative. But I just think... Thanks.
Sorry.
No, that's very good.
Bring it back.
That's all right. I get paid every time you do that, so it's good.
Right.
I don't.
For his face.
But it's just that when this podcast goes to the higher ups, I want them to hear that it's important that we remember like how important the artists are, and when it comes to stuff like the CRB here, it so overlooks the artists that like didn't have a contract when things shut down. They didn't qualify for the CRB. Like we just slipped through the cracks in a way that I go like, we need to be more cognizant of that so that doesn't happen, because if it happens, we're just going to lose artists. Like people are just going to stop doing it, and that's a tragedy.
And also in our own institutions, like I'm forgetting the name of the like acting charity or whatever, but like
the fund, the
Actors Fund.
The
AFC, thank you, Izzy. So I was reading their kind of guidelines for, not to call them out, but for like being able to support like actors during this time, and you would have had to have made X amount of dollars, like done this amount, been part of this union, and not like what happens to the graduates from 2020 onward? Like what happens?
Yeah.
You know? And you know, it's so hard because I like to think like I'm a global thinker, and and as powerless as I am, I always love to put things into perspective and think about, you know, well, I'm lucky to be living where I'm living, and have all these like things, and be able to, you know, support myself and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, this is like still the livelihood of so many people, you know, regardless of like if this is going on and that is going on. So it's like, so it's
well, you mentioned earlier, like the world ended,
Mm-hmm.
right? But not just like the entire world, but like the world of artists We are performing artists, I should say. We could not do what we do. And that to me feels like a complete stop. A complete world of theater and concerts and, you know, people on the street who would busk, and anything that was live all of a sudden could not be put into our society. How does that change the entire public now?
It changes so much, and if you, and I wish I had the numbers on hand, and I used to, but now I've forgotten them. But I'm going to paraphrase them, just full caveat that this is not quite right. But it's something like for every theater patron that comes out in a major city. I think the one that I read that had a lot of good documentation on was in London, England. But that it's like every theater patron on average spends like, it was like 50 or 75 pounds in the economy around the theaters every time they come to a place. They go out for dinner, they go out for drinks, they use public transportation, whatever it may be. So the theater industry is so much more than just what it contributes to the economy.
The thing there.
Just beyond that. Exactly. Yeah. It's so much more than that. And it'd be so easy to go, oh, it's just the theater, but it's not just that. So it is bigger, and then, you know, so it's not just from some sort of an emotional place where I go like, theater is important, and I swear it is.
Well, we don't need to, you know, confirm that. We all know how important it is,
But that from a practical, from an economic perspective, it actually is so much more valuable than just all of that stuff that we all know about.
I know that, wow.
It's huge. It's a huge amount of money. So I wish I had those figures on hand. I don't know if you have any sort of a way to like tag something on. Yeah, sure. Fact check me like armchair expert.
Yeah, I know.
What's that segment at the end called?
With my soulmate,
Monica Padman. I like when he goes like, "This is Dirk's shirt face here with Marvin Mouse."
We love Jack Shepherd. Shout out to him.
What's my Marvin Mouse name? Yeah, we love them.
Send all your followers over there. He's gonna get a real bump now.
Yeah, I know, right?
He really needs it.
He needs
the support.
He needs the support. Spotify hates him right now.
I heard him and his wife are really struggling.
Notoriously.
I think that's a huge point. I mean, yeah, like I said, like we don't need to confirm why we love theater. The four of us here, like it's an experience. It's a community thing. But it is funny how many people turn to Netflix and to YouTube and all of these streaming services during this time in an attempt to escape the pandemic. And that is what we do. We help people to come into a new world when they come to the theater, when they come to a concert. And it's interesting what happens now, like in this sort of gray period of like, well, we're still in it, but we're trying to do shows. We're doing shows outside. We're doing things more online. I'm so like aware and trying to be very much of like a listener about what the climate is going to be like after all of this. Will it be the same? Will people want to come to live shows still?
I suppose the answer is like more complicated, because when is the end, right?
Right.
We're all double vaccinated. Well, I mean, the people who want to be are double vaccinated. We have done realistically all that we can as the everyday person, as a overall, to be able to move forward. So yeah, like my question around all this has been like, where is the threshold? Where's the threshold where we can then begin to start looking meaningfully at having the world come back online? Because it's such a privileged, which is a word that I don't like to use so much, but it's a privileged thing to say, because if you look at, you know, the 1918 pandemic, that went on for 4 years. There was no Netflix, there was no YouTube, there were and it was also a much more serious illness to have gotten, you know. So there are lots of variables in this that make the end, like the end, everyone talks about the end, I've read lots of articles that say that it might not ever completely end.
Right. And like that thought of being like, what? We're never going to be able to get back to what we do?
But that, like, how do we move forward? If we know, if this is what we know, and we are here on this earth, and we are a human populace,
there is still life.
How do we meaningfully move forward?
I thought about like telling my like kids in like 30 years, like, there was a time when we actually didn't wear masks in the grocery store every day. Like, I'm like, how is that gonna be something like that? Like, totally. I don't know.
Yeah. There's something about seeing a little kid in a mask in a store outside with their parents that just makes me like my heart drops a little in my chest.
I do nannying a bunch, and like having to like tell kids, like, I'm so sorry, but like, you do have to put your mask on, was like so, and they're like, I don't want to, and I'm like, I don't, man, me neither, like, sucks. Really
I feel
rough.
you. I've been teaching kids too, and it's just like, don't touch anyone, don't,
you want to let them play,
don't move
around
from your box and stuff.
It's natural, it's like kids are kids.
Well, lots of adults are having a hard time understanding it, and accepting that they have to wear masks and stuff, to ask little babies too is so hard.
I know, right? And I wonder too, like, this play that we all worked on, this Zoom play, I feel like is such a great example of like documenting someone's life during all of this and the ability to continue to make art. Like Frankie, the main character, played by the wonderful Anna Kopasek.
Oh my god!
We'll sing her praises in a second. I like this character, that you've written, Sarah, has a mental breakdown, has a full-on like isolation problem, but still streams on Twitch, still makes TikToks, still like talks to her friends about art. And
I've never met anyone like that. I wrote it. I wrote it from a perspective of, I wonder what it would be like to live like this girl.
Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, obviously, I can identify a lot with those kinds of behaviors.
When I read it, I was like, oh, did you come into my quarantine and like talk about me?
That's free.
I think I'm just a person who's very open about my, who's very public about my isolation, which is like, and have been, which I think I like to hope it brings some people, a couple giggles.
Absolutely think so. And it's so current, these emotions. And it's so like, in this time, like such a unique time to document something like that, and that's why I told you, like, I really believe in this play. Like, I really believe that this story needs to be told because a lot of people are dealing with it. I've described it as like a love letter to like every 2020 performance grad, because like, I mean, I don't want to generalize, but like those feelings of loneliness and creativity kind of just being totally thrown into the mishmash of what was going on. Like, I don't know, I think it's a great example of like there is still art to be made and there is still life to be told and lived through and stuff.
And it goes back to your original question too about motivation. It was an example of one person, how they found motivation. It was through creating stuff and finding new outlets and utilizing that creation of art to get themselves through. And I feel like sort of now at the end of this, that's sort of where I went. It's kind of, Sarah, you kind of got the ball rolling with Pandemic Play right at a time when I took this acting class that I mentioned with Izzy, because I was like, I got to do something. I have to make something happen. But the first chunk of the pandemic, I was just like wallowing in... I wasn't actually even that sad. It's just like I was like, I'm going to wallow in the nothingness of this, and played a lot of Call of Duty. And
you were languishing.
I was languishing is a much better word.
I love that.
That's right.
Yeah, great. I was languishing. And that was a thing too. That was a different way of dealing with it. And that wasn't Frankie's thing, the lead character in Sarah's play. But it was just a version of someone's motivation of how they were getting through it.
Yes.
But what you're saying about like Sarah got the ball rolling on this, like, is I feel like an example of sort of what we were talking about earlier, how like you surround yourself with like cool creative people. Like Sarah wanted to do this, and then she brought all three of us in, and like it became a really helpful thing for us.
Absolutely.
And like got us off our asses, and
like,
that
was what I wanted.
Yeah. And our whole cast, like
our whole cast was incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something that was positive for everybody involved, and like was nothing but that. Yeah. Because I think it's so easy to just get, we talk about how much we love doing this, but then we also talk about how oftentimes we're put into working situations where it's like not a good environment, or we don't like the director, we don't like this cast member, and like, and we oftentimes get so bogged down with like the dislike of this or that, and whenever I do shows, I've written a couple of things now. It's always really important to me that the people that I bring in are people that I like to work with and people that I know have like that similar mindset of like, we're doing this because it's fun, not like, you know, we can be serious artists and talk about, you know, all the elements that go into performing all day long. But like at the end of the day, we're like doing a fucking play, you know, like it's not that serious.
You take the work seriously, you don't take yourself too seriously in the work.
And that's what I think was really good about this play. I think Anna especially, another shout out to her, she's incredible, not only as an actor but like as a person. It was wonderful to be able to work with her every day.
Her work ethic is the reason the show existed.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah, she really carried us through. And yeah, like, and I think she was kind of a very important pillar in the like realm of positivity that I feel like every rehearsal was. And what's awesome is that we had so many different people from so many different kind of corners of like the Ryerson community, just the outside acting community, and every rehearsal environment was a little different because it was always Anna feat someone else or feat a couple of other people. And I did notice that the dynamic would shift like based on who we had in the room. Like Aiden, it was always a meme fest. And then when we had some of the Aiden Gervais, we had some of our adults,
like teachers, which
was an amazing privilege to work with them, or like other, you know, grown-up people real grown-up people in the play. Like the dynamic would shift, but I noticed that there was always just like a thread of we're here because we like it, we're here because we are enjoying what we're doing, and not because we're here, not because we're putting another, you know, tick on our resume, or we're putting another, you know, nobody didn't enjoy themselves. I think, which was the goal, you know, like I think the end product really reflected like the amount of fun that everyone had, and it was awesome to be able to come in as producer and like watch the rehearsals and watch my own play be kind of brought to life. I've gotten that experience a couple of times, but in my last play that I did, Known as Listeners, which you can listen to on newvoicesfestival.ca, I was in it as well.
Clean.
So clean. Like
I was in it, so I'm rambling, but like I was in it, so I didn't really get that separation between, and so this time I was like, I'm not going to be in it. I don't know how I felt about being in my own play.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice.
I mean, it was fun. I had a lot of fun. The cast was great. I had a good time until the world ended. But and we turned it into a podcast. But this time it was just great to reflect.
Izzy, what? The world ended when?
You didn't hear about that? That was 17 and a half months ago.
Sorry?
Anyway, so good times all around. 10 out of 10 dentists.
Oh my god!
10 out of 10 dentists recommend pandemic
I will
play.
say 10 out of 10 dentists like that I spoke to who were cast members of our play, like
all 10 of them.
All 10 of the dentists in our play like did share that they like had a really positive experience, and like the room, the like quote unquote room, the online space was like a positive one that they were excited to come to, and like truly that's the feedback that means the most to me about working on this whole thing. It was nice to hear what people thought of the actual product, and I'm happy that we were all happy with it, but like just the group of people involved being like, this was meaningful to me. It was a place I was excited to come and make art with other people that are excited, like truly like feeds me, like oh my god.
And I think that came from the spirit of like of Sarah, you made this thing, and it really felt like it was, I mean, I always like to feel this way, like we're doing something that is useful to people. Like that's like my buzzword. I love useful. But this one really in a really practical, my other favorite buzzword. Useful and practical. Like this one is really practically useful because it was like we could all get out of our own suffering and misery of like there's no art, there's no theater, and it really felt like a gift to everyone. And I think that again, like I said, you set the ball rolling by getting us all on this thing. Like this is a thing we can do right now, that we have the ability, and it gave us some artistic liberty and some artistic say.
And like influence.
Yeah, just
independent.
Just a feeling of thank you.
I know, we got
I knew you'd get me.
I got you.
Izzy's the best. Izzy's the best for the finishing my sentences. You are the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, some autonomy, which just I feel like we've all been it feels so powerless when a pandemic literally sweeps over the world. You're like, I can't do anything. The world is just moving around me, and I'm just here. Yeah. But you gave us some of that. Like you gave us all some of that, and so I think that's where it came from. That we could all just have that going into the room, and And yeah, I agree. I do think genuinely everyone working on this, really felt that, enjoyed themselves, and felt like they just got to do something. They got to do some acting, something they love to do in a room that made them feel happy. And that really, I particularly have a problem being so product driven, I love. It's really important to me that something is something that people like, that people, that I don't make someone go like, oh man, I went to a play and it was a real bummer. That I'm gonna spoil someone's evening. They're gonna waste their evening on my show, whatever that is. But this one, I felt like I didn't feel that way so much. It was like, no, this is about giving people something to do. It's a real practical use of the moment. And through that, ultimately, like you're talking about process earlier, through that process, that you get something good. You get a product that's actually, hopefully, has something good to it.
All the people that I talked to about it who had seen it, and some of them weren't even artists at all, they were like, wow, this really is what happened. This I can relate to it. The online aspect of it, the different platforms that we used, like the FaceTime, the Skype, and the everything like that. That is the mirror image of what we went through as a society.
I also think it was really just well thought out by our two wonderful directors, Luke Kimball and Izzi Nagel, and our movement director, Bri Clarke. Host of the Art Versations podcast. It was just
so meta.
It was cool. It was cool to just get to sit in the rehearsal rooms and watch you guys work. You guys really,
oh my gosh.
A big part of the reason why the process was so positive was because you guys kept the ball in the air. You guys kept the room light, kept the actors really comfortable. There were a couple actors who had never even spoken to either of you before, or me for that matter, or Bri, and who I felt by the end were, and even in the beginning, I think the way that you guys especially carried yourselves in the rehearsal room was reflective of and contributed to the positivity that, because the director is the captain of the ship, it's their job to kind of set the tone, and you guys just did a really excellent job all the time of just keeping the room really positive. So.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Congratulations.
Good job, everyone. Good job. That packs all around. That packs all around.
Well, Luke does a thing where he likes to just belittle every amazing accomplishment that he does. And one of his accomplishments was being an excellent director. Izzi as well. But Izzi, I think, is better than Luke at accepting. Yeah.
No, you said it. You did.
Is better than Luke at accepting her worth. So I just had to get that out there.
Yeah, there was a reason I would sit in on your rehearsals. I just absolutely adored it.
I want to shout out a little observation I made of because people in my life that are non-actors or theater creator artists, people would be like, oh my god, Izzi, you're spending so much time on this online play, you must be making $1 million, right? And it's no, actually, almost 1 million.
Joke. Yeah.
But it's no, I'm just doing because I want to, and I've through the I only ever did theater. It was only ever my experience. And then through the pandemic, a lot of actors, you make a little bit of a switch to film TV because that's still happening. And that's a way to employ yourself.
And it's where all the money is.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I noticed that on my, very limited experiences on sets, that, I don't know. I don't know if we'd be here all day if we weren't actually making millions of dollars. I don't know if people are passionate about film and it's there, but it's a little bit we were saying, it's process. I feel like it's product driven. That's in my experience, which and it has to be because it's so expensive to make, because it's so time, it is a product.
There's so many moving
stakes.
pieces.
There's so many insane. Open my eye. I had never been on sets before, and now having just again tiny bit of experience, I'm oh my god, I'm really seeing what goes into it. It's a time you have to be that way. But it almost then isn't that time and space for people to be I'm here for 25 hours this week just because I want to, and because it's a good room to be in, because you can't, you just simply can't do that, and there's things that film TV has that theater can't have, and it's wonderful. And I've had great times on sets. Doesn't mean you can't have a great time, but I'm like, oh, this is what's special about like theater, and even just like indie theater with like people that want to be doing it together.
Yeah,
like
so
it's
special.
just such
It's unbeatable.
a special. It's unbeatable.
There's nothing
It's
like
unbeatable.
performing live, you know. And you can do a Netflix series, and you can do a little play in the back of your room, and I will always have more fun performing for those 10 people in my room than. And I mean, I haven't been on, you know, Workin Moms season 5.
Lord.
But
Count number 2 for
Cha-ching,
that.
cha-ching, cha-ching.
Luke just made 10 cents.
Yep.
But you know, I've done a couple of short films, and I did a really terrible reality television show when I was 15.
I always forget about that, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh my god, that's right. Sarah did a terrible reality TV show.
Yeah, I did. I'll name drop it. So I was on season 5 of The Next
Oh, the next star! Yes.
Classic.
Yeah, and
Oh
like
my
it's
God.
just which wasn't acting, it was a reality show and it was singing, but like
So dumb.
there's nothing like the feeling of performing live. It can't be duplicated, and unfortunately all the money is in film. And also unfortunately theater doesn't really exist to the capacity that it did last, 17 and a half months ago, wherein you could go to like a general call at Tarragon or a general call at Crow's Theater, insert theater name here. Like what the culture right now is that everywhere is like a closed shop. So basically, if you've worked with this theater before, if they know you and they're doing an outside play, then they'll call you up and they'll say, hey, Joe, come do this cabaret with us. Hey, Molly, come, do this like
More
workshop
names. 3
with
more
us.
names. Fred.
Tracy.
Kingsley.
Friesel.
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 Hey, Friesel.
Yeah, but it's like, I get it, because they're protecting their people.
people.
Yeah,
I would do
yeah.
the same thing. If I got to pick like 4 people who like got to work, I wouldn't go audition some rando. I take care of my people. Like,
But that's,
I,
right, that's the culture right now.
Yeah.
But then what happens to all these theater grads
it's-
who don't have any of these chances to like show their worth and show themselves to these like companies, like that doesn't exist right now. And so I think that's my biggest like existential moment right now is like, when will we get that?
That's a really good point. And so let's shout out Coal Mine just on that note that they just had general auditions, and I know a couple people that auditioned for that.
Is it a theater company?
Yeah.
Yeah. So So the Coal Mine Theater, it's over on the Danforth, and Ted Dykstra runs it. Maybe there's someone else that runs it.
Chris Abraham.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's Crows.
He's Crows.
Crows did it too, though.
Yeah.
Crows did it open too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so
Good
good
to
good
hear.
for these companies. Good
Yeah,
for these
yeah.
companies. If we're missing anyone, then
Good for you all.
Good for you all. Good for you.
all.
Pat yourselves. But
They're all
but
listening.
that's a really good point, Sarah. That's really true.
It just doesn't exist to the capacity that it used to. Like I auditioned for like shout out to Stratford, this little indie company.
Oh my god.
They
Hasn't been around for a
had
second.
Birmingham Conservatory auditions this year, and like so that's a thing that I did, but like it just doesn't. But that's like the first time, in almost 2 years that's happening, and like. Yeah, so it's tough.
Can I shout
That's a
out
great point.
the Shaw Festival?
Yeah.
Not even as like a pump, but the Shaw Festival saw this problem and like asked grads of this year to come do like a monologue.
The monologue jam.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I saw that. Yes.
And like that was amazing, and we all got to like be together.
Did you do
and
it?
work. I did, and
Izzy did it and then cleaned up. Izzy did it.
Did you win the jam?
it wasn't a win.
There's no win. It was just they took some people forward in to do another
callback?
Another callback.
Yeah,
and then they really loved Izzy because he's so great and diligent and smart, and brought in some really really excellent material as she does. And so they had Izzy do a workshop there for how many weeks? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks of like every day with the company of the
You
Shaw
get to
Festival.
work with like the actual company members and just train and stuff, which was awesome. And like, you're so sweet. To
That's
me.
a great launching pad.
But
Yeah,
it's
it's
amazing, and
huge.
I'm like, that is an example exactly of that problem, Sarah. Like, but like they were like, this seems like a problem. Like, we're gonna reach out and identify it, and then like everybody that got to participate in it benefited, and then specifically the like 16-ish of us that like then got to do this like wonderful workshop totally for free, like and online of course, but just like be in that environment is like that's the gift, and like if companies can do that, like. Shaw, I hope, can like lead the way and sort of, because that's the best way to like outreach to people who just want to like be with you and just want to like be in the community, you
Be
know?
in the room where it happened.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I fucking miss musicals.
Oh,
like that.
Speaking of that, I did just get cast in Hamilton.
Yeah. I'm playing Maria Swing. Maria Swing. Yeah.
I'll be playing the bullet. So.
I'll be playing. I was gonna say that. I didn't know if anyone would get that.
Bri. You'd
I
be
would love to
awesome
be
in
the
Hamilton.
bullet.
Oh my god. I would love.
You have to be the bullet.
No, that's actually a part
It's a part.
though.
Are you serious?
It's the white girl. It's the white girl track in Hamilton.
No, it's
So
not.
yeah, the bullet
She's
is
not
always
oh,
white.
no,
No, she's
no, no.
not.
The original
no,
no.
she wasn't.
I'm really not here. I'm feeling very attacked right now.
The original was Ariana DeBose, star of
Wasn't it the
Prom
girl
and
the Umbrella Academy.
And
Isn't she?
No,
Is she?
that's Lily
Oh,
something.
that's another one who was in
Yeah.
Hamilton though, isn't she?
Yes, she was.
Oh, my-
Emily, sorry, Emily
Oh
something.
my god.
Ariana DeBose was the original bullet.
Okay, I
She
believe you.
stands in between Lynn and what's his face, Leslie, and she like pulls out her arms.
First name basis, everyone.
So what
First
was the
name basis.
character? What was the white girl character with like she had short blonde hair?
Betsy.
Yes.
The original
The original Betsy.
the original Betsy. She's
But what
played
was
by
the
Betsy.
character's name?
I don't
They don't have
know if
names.
she
They're
had
ensemble.
one.
Okay.
Say it again.
They don't know. They're ensemble.
Oh yeah.
They don't have names. They're an ensemble.
The ensemble doesn't get names.
They sometimes, except for the bullet, I guess.
The bullet.
Like,
But do you know how much money I would pay to be in the ensemble of a musical right now? Like,
Literally same,
that used to
though.
be my biggest fear was to audition for a musical and get cast in the ensemble.
get out! I would love to be in the back.
Well, no, just because I
I'm crazy
you're,
talented.
You're a beautiful
Oh,
dancer though, Bri, and like that's a lot of like, you know, like
I'm a
the
singer.
back is where I
Yeah.
get to like not sing.
So
like,
that's
Oh my god, stop that.
Yeah, you're a
Bri is
great singer.
Bri is incredible. Let me
Oh my god, tell the story.
publicly tell the story.
tell the
Bri
story.
Is and then I will pick up your thread, Sarah,
I'm
because
blushing so
but,
hard.
But
I love
but
this
that
story.
but that I was
our first year
was in the
class.
first, but I wasn't even in the class. I just
Oh, yeah.
came to the class because all of my peers were doing their like final, like they got a chance to sing a solo or something. I was like, I want to go watch them do that, and so I'm there to see my friends who I know, and then Bri starts singing. What was the song?
everything else from Next to Normal.
Everything else makes more. And
does.
and I was like, and I didn't know Bri at all, and was like so floored. And I was like, Izzy, am I allowed to go tell her that she is incredible? Like, and it's just like, you really should do that. And I was like, but what if she thinks I'm a freak?
Who is that? Who is that?
She's so good. And I went up and I was like, I just want to tell you, like, you were so incredible. I mean, and I knew Bri was in the dancing program because she wasn't in the acting program. So obviously dancers can be actors, but like, I was like, Bri, you could literally audition for any show with that piece right there and you would get cast. It was so brilliant from an acting perspective. Like I was floored by it. So I just need to call out the absolute BS of you saying, oh, I'm not a singer. I don't have to sing there.
No.
That's so untrue.
I can sing everything else because it like barely goes up.
You
but,
can
like,
sing
Um,
everything
as-
else
as
other
a
than everything
musical
else, as well as
person,
everything else. You can sing everything.
The
I tried
song Everything Else does go up quite a bit, and there is lots of belting, and I was not there for this performance because I was a very notorious class skipper in first year. Who me?
I'm so blushing right now.
Oh,
my
it
gosh.
was so
Thank you very
amazing.
much
It
for
was
that.
incredible. So all of your
I
fans.
remember that. I remember
Oh.
Luke literally being like floored.
I was shook to my very core. It was
Who's
incredible.
that? Who is that?
Yeah.
Who is that?
It was amazing. So all of your listeners can now know just how you'll have to do like a cover of it for your listeners.
Well, she sings on the podcast.
I'm sometimes on tune. It's really great, but sometimes not.
Okay, wait, Sarah's
sorry,
thread.
yeah,
Where's
yeah,
Sarah's
Sarah's
one?
thread.
Being in the ensemble.
No, I was just saying like
Yeah, but you miss musicals.
I miss musicals. My
Yeah.
perspective has changed so much now in that like, and maybe it's because of the kinds of theater I was doing, but like my biggest fear was to audition for a show and get put in the ensemble because I sing and I dance kind of,
Yes, you
and
do.
I act, and so I like musicals are like my first love. Like that's where I came from was
Same.
music theater. So the fact that it's just decimated right now is just like.
Hi listeners, Bri here. Hope you are enjoying this roundtable episode so far. Thought this would be a good time just to check in for a quick break so I can let you know that all 10 episodes of season 4 are now available. And if you have any feedback or thoughts, please leave a review or a comment below, as I'm very, very interested to hear from you. Who should be a guest on season 5? Are you an artist with a story to tell? DM the podcast Instagram at versations pod, or send an email to artversationspodcast@gmail.com. And while we're at it, I just want to also give a huge shout out to Jan Marquez for his creative eye and branding supervision throughout this season. The new cover art was designed by him, and any other logos could not have been crafted to the precise degree that they were without him. So thank you, Jan. Big ups to you. All right, back to the episode.
So back to what you were saying, Sarah, about you love musicals.
Yeah, I love musicals.
I'm so good at this.
I love musicals. That was the moral of that story. And I last time I did one, I was 17, and I'm 22. I'll be 23 in a couple months. And that was the last one I ever did. And I just, ever since then, I've been, because I'm a great producer, but I can't produce a musical. That's just, the elements in that are so.
It's a lot.
All encompassing. The rights are $1,000 trillion.
So expensive.
At least.
So I've been waiting for the universe to allow me to be in a musical again, and who knows when that'll happen. But like that, it shoehorns into this whole theater is dead right now because like my agent, when she signed me, was like so excited about the prospect of like sending me out for musicals because there is a lot of musical theater in Canada. Like there's Drayton, there's Theatre Aquarius, there's Mirvish, there's like Off Mirvish, and those are just the ones that are like coming to my brain. There's like 1,500
regionals.
Like exactly, there's like 1,500 like regional
Musical stage company.
Musicals. That's like like Off Mirvish, but
Is it?
Yeah, Next Normal they did was like they consider
that was
it
me.
off
That's right.
I'm thinking of, I know Britta Johnson does
Afterlife.
The Life After. That's so great.
That was a good one.
I really liked it.
This is bringing up a little bit of a thought for me, if I can segue a bit. The idea of creating Zoom theater and like Zoom musicals and what that is, and obviously we did it with Pandemic Play, but like because we haven't been able to do live shows and live musicals, like a lot of musical productions have been switched and adapted into Zoom. Is it still a musical? Is it still a live show, even if it's going to be on Zoom? Like I've been struggling with that a little bit in my own life of like, do I tune into this like staged listening party where everyone is just a head on a screen and the conductor is the only one who's like actually on time and everyone else is off sync? Like, I don't know.
There's no feasible way to do a live musical unless your accompanist or like your canned music is in the same room with the performer and they're singing a solo and everyone's just singing solos, because there's no way that it, like you'll have to edit things together then it won't be live. But I saw this really good one called Ratatouille the Musical, and it was like star-studded. The cast was like, it was like Titus Burgess and like, insert
Kevin
star
Chamberlain,
here.
I think.
Yeah, and that was fun just because it was like goofy and like a bunch of Broadway stars doing the thing. But yeah, musicals are hard to replicate on Zoom.
TikTok had a lot of influence in that.
Yeah,
Like
Didn't they call it Ratatouille the TikTok musical?
Yeah,
it was literally started
birthed on TikTok.
Yeah,
It was birthed.
which is interesting, right? Like it was birthed. It's interesting that like people on TikTok were some people, the community of TikTokers who were like starved of having musical theater, like band together, made this, very informal musical, but like it goes back to that question of like people turning to things to escape and like art still being made even if it's in this format. I mean, we all love a musical, like we all miss that feeling of like, and even now with Broadway being back, like the amount of videos people have taken of bows and
those make me cry.
Those make me
cry.
Yeah.
So tear-jerking because you know that all of these actors, these performers were just so excited to be back.
Yeah.
And the audience was electric, and
the like ensemble members who aren't like stars have been like struggling in the way that we like eating bread for the past 17 you know what I mean?
the
Like
swing artists.
and like now
don't
they're
have a job.
just back literally on Broadway. Like
Yeah.
they've been going through the same thing, and it's so easy to empathize.
Canada
and feel
needs
it.
to get their shit together and do the same thing because it's possible. I don't know. I hate walking past the Ed Mirvish Theater and seeing that Hamilton is still on the marquee and it looks like an abandoned theater. I'm like, why has no one figured it out yet? Like, it's possible.
Well, it's just again what Luke was saying earlier. the government.
Yeah.
I hate to use such broad terms,
I hate
but
getting
they
political,
don't. They
too.
don't
Yeah.
prioritize. Well, like this isn't even a political thing. It's just like a cross, liberal, conservative. Like any government in power just doesn't prioritize the arts in the way that like the artists prioritize the arts. So like movie theaters are open, but not like the Edinburgh Theater. Why?
Yeah, why?
I mean, the sad reality is that like because right now we still have capacity limits for stuff, and it's like these shows like the big musicals, especially most theater, but especially the big musicals, like and this might be something that probably your listeners would know, but these shows can't make money unless they sell to full capacity, or at least like 95%. So when we have these capacity limits, it's like people looking and go, well, the government says you can do it, you should have to have these capacity limits. Like that's not feasible for our industry. Like the big shows that we're talking about right now, it doesn't work. They have to be able to have full capacity. So to my mind, I'm not questioning the safety of it all, because that's paramount, but that's above anything else. But that can the government not do something to subsidize it so that theaters can open, they can cover the difference. Like if we
accessible.
That's a good idea.
If we want to say art is important, and I certainly want to say that, what can they do to fill in the gaps so that we can get back to it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of hope. All the theater companies have announced restart dates.
Yeah, well, you got cast in a show that wasn't it like the most expensive show on Broadway ever or something?
Yep.
In like the Canadian version of it.
Yep.
It's called Workin Moms the musical.
But even with that, the company has a planned opening date in Toronto. So
Yep.
This is Potter?
Yeah. So I was cast in that.
Yeah. You were.
So the casting announcement went out on March 13th, I think it was. No, March 11th. It was 11th.
Oh,
March 11th.
We got breakfast.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it went on March 11th, and the world shut down. I just learned recently the Friday the 13th. Which
Yes, it was.
That's nuts.
It was March 13th, 2020. Yeah.
But that it was the announcement went out. Had a day of like congratulations, and then the next day, someone reached out and said like, hey, can we interview you for something? And I went to the publicist and they said, yeah, great, we'll set that up for you. And then the following day, someone reached out and said, hey, can we interview something? And I reached the publicist and they said, we're not doing anything right now. We're waiting for this COVID thing to figure itself out.
Like, what was that like to like have such a big project come into your life? And obviously it's like Harry Potter, everyone loves it. But
We
like,
also got. I'll just say for the listeners, like the lead in the show.
like
He
literally
is
one
the
of.
cursed child.
you are the curse.
I would,
he debates that.
I would argue that's not true, but
yeah.
But to have that come into your life, obviously it's a huge opportunity. It's all scheduled, ready to go. 2 days later, wiped out from under your goddamn feet. Like, what was that feeling?
I think, getting it was totally life changing. Like that was the.
And you worked so hard for it too.
Oh,
It was thrilled to see it happen.
Yeah, it was like such a fortunate thing to have happened all the way that it did, and I had so many people help me get there. Like it was Izzy being one of the people who helped me. So I wouldn't have it without Izzy. And without a lot of people, Marianne McIsaac, Dylan Trowbridge, my agent Monica Thomas, all these so many people were so instrumental in that. That it really felt like to me anyway, a communal letdown that we all were like, and my family too, of course, they were like so thrilled. I was like, I'm going to pay off my debt, which I truly thought I would never get to do. Anyway, so obviously it was hard. Mm-hmm. But that being said, what I do remember, and I try to cling to today, was I do remember feeling like this, like the fact that we were all going through this pandemic together globally. And I think a lot about the first 2 or 3 weeks where it was not a political thing.
Right.
That was, and particularly in the States, I mean, we've been better about it here. Not perfect, of course, far from it, but we've been better. But where even in the States, it wasn't political, and everybody was on a bipartisan effort to get through this together in the way that kept the most people safe. And it was such I actually think, obviously, would rather it didn't happen, would rather that I was doing Harry Potter right now. But it was kind of magical when the whole world was in this thing at the same time. And I think that was so special. So that gave me a lot of comfort just knowing that we were all going through this together, and it helped me not be in my own little insert. How can this happen to me? I had this job. I was just out of theater school and I was going to get this big role. Poor me. Like, I could get out of that a little bit to go like, no, we're all going through this. It got less fun when everything did start to become partisan, and we started warring about what it means. And
everything started to settle.
Yeah, it was just nasty. And I like a good conversation about what's the best way to handle this, for sure. But when it became like warring and like, oh, this makes no sense, and then we get into conspiracy land and all of that, that I just go like, damn. Like, when we fractured off like that, then it was not as comforting.
And you were like, will I ever play Bennett Brewer in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child?
And that's what I wondered. And then... But you know what? There's a good segue to positivity, though. Is that like, yeah, I lost that thing for the time, and you know, and they have new dates scheduled, and that company is the best, like the company of the Cursed Child and Mervish, the whole thing. Like, they're so great, you know, in a world where we don't. Obviously, they've got huge resources, of course, but they're not fortune tellers. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But they've been so communicative to everyone to let us all know what they know when they know it, as best of their abilities. It's an awesome group, and I feel super supported through that by them. So they have
also
dates.
In that play is Michael Chim.
Oh yeah, Michael Chim.
Chim, is that you say it?
Yeah, Michael
Chim, who was our Austin in our pandemic play,
that's
that's how we found him through that.
I didn't realize that's
you
awesome.
didn't know.
Yeah, he's
so
in the play too. That's how we know him. That's how Luke knows him.
Fantastic.
Shout out to Michael Chin, because he is hilarious.
So
if you're gonna watch this play for any reason,
it's for Michael
it should
Chim.
be for Michael Chim, because there's a scene where he sings, and it's honestly
shaking his head in joy.
I could not have movement directed him in that, because he did such a good job.
He did
such
his
a good
instincts
job.
were just on fire.
That was all him. He was so funny, and I'm so excited.
Sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to
you're
shout
okay.
him
No,
out
please,
there.
please do.
Really
He's
cool.
and for everyone to hear, he's so great to work with. He's so careful, and he's so diligent about the way that he works, and he can't not be truthful. Like, I think of myself as bargain bin Michael Chim. Like that, honestly. If you want to put me in something, put me in it. If Michael's busy, go to Michael first, because we're a really similar, like, young boy type. But he does what I do, just better. He's so
You better stop.
He can't lie. Like, everything he does, he comes up with these funny, amazing, creative choices that are so thoroughly lived in and fleshed out, but he's so truthful in them. I love working with.
What I like
he's
about-
like, I'm upset.
He'd never done this before in any rehearsal, and then when we filmed, there's a part where he's like, because I'm upset. Like, she's asking him why he's upset, his girlfriend, and in the filming of it, he starts pulling at his shirt as if he's like trying to jump out of his clothes.
He's like too hot.
It's so good. But speaking of the honesty, like, yes, he's truthful in his like acting, and it's very in the moment and very truthful, whatever. But also he's truthful in working with Luke and Izzi. I noticed that, like, if he didn't understand a note, if he didn't get something, if he didn't feel like he was there that day, he wasn't gonna hide it. He was gonna say, I didn't feel like I brought my best work today. I was feeling this, I was feeling that. But he's so good at just like accepting those parts of himself, accepting when he's there, and just like being in the moment in the room as like a human as well. Which I really admire that about him.
Yeah, me too. And it makes our job, I think, so, and we talk about this a lot, Izzy, like, our job is so much easier when someone can level with us to say, here's where I'm at, and I can go, oh, good, I don't need to convince you of the fact, I don't need to tell you, we don't need to like try to, I don't like feeling like someone's like convincing me that like they're off book when they're not. It's like, I see you're looking at your script, it's okay, just don't try to, because now I don't know how to.
Anna was amazing at that, at knowing where she was at, and identify. We'd be like, Anna, how'd that go? And she'd say, and we'd be like, that was exactly how I felt that went too, which I admire in an actor. I never know how that went for me. And because, you know, the fact is we're all here to support. Yeah. And the best way I can support is if I know where you're at, truthfully, rather than you trying to be like, no, I feel I'm off book, and so that's going well, and you know, and convincing me that you're doing something that you're just not. Like, it's okay, because then I can better support you to get there, to get to being off book, to where can we stick your lines, like whatever it may be. That was a learning that was a learning moment for me lots of learning moments for me as an actor directing this, but that was a big one. Is like, I have a big thing with just like people pleasing and wanting to be like the perfect actor and castmate and blah blah blah, but I'm like, oh, it is so much better to work with someone who is just where they're at and will come at me with where they're at, and like that's truly a lesson for me to be like, okay, like next time I am lucky enough to be working on a theater, like as an actor, knock on wood, like I will just be where I'm at, because like now I know, my God, that is just so much better for everyone involved.
It's a kind of a harsh reality too, being on Zoom and having like self tapes, or like you know, auditions not being as live as they used to be. Like it's like there is that screen and that barrier between the casting or the director or whatever. And how does the acting still like play out as a truthful story? Because I love being live, I love being in person, but I also want to practice, you know. I'm wondering too with Izzy, like all of the self tapes you've been doing, and Sarah, you could probably speak to this too, like where do I put my script if I haven't been on book, and then how do I also like look into the camera and like notice my acting partner and everything, like I don't know, what's that been like for you?
I think, well, just to speak to the script thing, just as a rule, I'm always off book, which
Cool.
is like a me thing. It's just, it's impossible for me. Maybe other people are able to like feel good about their work and submit it to a casting director if they're reading from a script. I am so anal about that. I feel like they'll know. I feel like they'll see it. So it's just important for me to feel as comfortable as I can feel to be off book. But I will say that I almost prefer a self-tape to a live Zoom audition.
I see.
I've had a few now, and every time I have felt really off in like my performance, my demeanor, like there's something about it that just feels really weird. And there was one where my reader was Lauren Collins, who was Paige on Degrassi. I watched that show like a religion growing up.
Same.
And so I like get the, like I open the Zoom room, I get pulled into the Zoom room, and they're like, hi, I'm Daniel, I'm the casting director, this is Lauren, she's gonna be your reader. I knew who she was right away. So the whole audition, like, because I'm such a fangirl, like I'm such a little girl, I was like, I just want to tell her that I fucking loved her on the cruise. The whole time I was
and
like,
Life with
oh
Derek.
my God. And Kendra on Life with Derek. Like, like this girl was such...
That's how I know her.
Yes, she was
I recognized
such
her in the casting, but I didn't watch Degrassi.
an
was
integral part of
also-
my childhood.
She was also on a short-lived show called like Heartbeat something. I forget exactly what it was
In a
called.
Heartbeat?
In a Heartbeat.
Yes,
thank you.
the hospital show. It was
Yeah.
like Grey's Anatomy, but they were like teens.
They were all like I was gonna say pandemic, but
EMT,
they were all like
paramedics.
paramedics. Thank you. Yeah.
paramedic play.
Paramedic life. Hashtag.
So just
Yeah.
as I am never not off book for auditions.
That's interesting.
I would love to share. I was talking to a like much older, like super established like film TV actor who like, yeah, he's doing it.
Name drop. Name drop.
No. 'Cause-
Okay, fine.
But we but he was saying that like he just booked a lead on like a series and is going away to shoot it for 3 weeks. So like, good job. But again, not even that shocking because he's like does that, you know. But was saying he's like, yeah, I haven't booked anything in a bit, and so I just figured for this self tape I was just gonna read off the screen. I read it like maybe once before, and then I like did the self tape and I sent it in, and then they had me read for another character on the same show. I did the same thing. I sent it in. Now I booked it and I'm going off for 3 weeks. So like that's for you. Like that's Sarah's process. Is like she has to be up by book for everything.
Maybe that's why I'm not booking, is because I fucking put all of the effort into every self tape.
This
They
man
can
also
tell.
has years and years and years of experience, so he can kind of afford to fuck around a little bit. But like, I'm like, there you go, right?
What's your process? Is it depending on the?
Yeah,
the part?
I don't read off the script, but I don't. It depends. It depends the amount of. Cause if I'm doing an audition and a script just like kind of makes sense to me and I get it, quote unquote, and I get what I want to do with the character and it kind of clicks, I don't do much work on it, honestly. Which is maybe not correct. I don't know. We'll see. But like, but I work.
No,
But
because
I'll
you're
work
not there.
more to do things that like are a bit foreign to me or that I don't feel as immediately connected.
I
And when I'm doing callbacks, even if it's something I really connect with, I will then do some work on it.
Because you do have some things coming out, right? You were telling me. Yeah. I know you can't speak too much about them, but like, did you know that when you picked up those sides for that part, like, this felt right, this felt like you could
Oh,
truthfully...
that's a great question. No.
I don't think you did. Not
No.
to speak for you, but just in
Interesting.
recounting.
Which are you thinking of? The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I did actually. But then once I got my first callback, I then sunk into it, and then by the second callback, I was like really feeling it.
Cool.
And then I was like, okay, yeah, this is me, I think. You were literally, Luke was literally in the room. My second callback for my first ever professional gig that I ended up doing, which was so fun. Luke and I were at a cottage, and they told me a couple days before we had to do like a live Zoom callback. And I had to learn this song in like one day and like sing it for this callback. And so we had to go up to like, what's it called? The little side cabin thing? Dungy?
I have
Dinky?
no idea.
It was like a little side cabin at our friend's cottage.
I believe
Anyway, we had to go up to this little cabin because it was the only place we could get signal to like Zoom stream this like callback, and like Luke's hiding at the side of the screen so he's not in it, like pressing play on the like sound for me. It was a whole nightmare.
Like, what a different process from
the process changes,
you know,
all
in
of
a studio,
you know, and then,
yeah.
then you end up on set and you're like, hey, we all got here somehow.
Different.
So
I
funny.
don't think that happened pre-pandemic, right? Like, people didn't just like zoom in
from like a cabin dinghy or whatever.
Cabin
No,
in the
rehearsals
woods.
would be, or auditions and callbacks would be in person.
They would be in person,
and
right?
that doesn't. That's not really happening
Even for
right
that same job, my first fitting, the costume designer drove to my apartment, dropped off bags, left, went to the studio, zoomed me while I in my apartment tried on the clothes, had my roommate take photos of me, text it to her, and then drove back to my apartment and picked up the costumes. It's like such a weird experience. Like, and it was so weird having that. I feel like you too, like our first professional on-set experiences were in this pandemic. So it's like everyone, I don't know, I remember being on set, everyone's like, oh, this is so different than normal, and I'm like, this is and the only thing I've ever done, like this is normal. Like I've never, I don't know, it's so weird. Like I feel like when things change and like we're lucky enough to be on set again,
so many knocks,
I'll be like, oh, like I can like sit in a dressing room like with I can go in your trailer, like I can sit with you, you know.
I will say things are, you know, getting more comfy. Like having just been on set last week, like it
was a bit more comfy.
Yeah, it's not quite as, I mean, you know, you all get tested and everything, and especially now knowing that, like, I guess it's not a requirement yet. We're probably going that way.
To
be double vaxxed. But I did know.
You do need your negative test, though.
Yeah, you need the negative test. And I also knew the people around, because everyone just talks about it pretty openly, as I think we should. I think it should be a really open conversation that, you know, I'm double vaxxed. Like, that's a good thing and to talk about. Anyway, so that made it feel a little bit easier, and, you know, it's still masked and everything, but it's not quite as restrictive.
Did you do the thing where you like have your masks on in between takes and like you have to like you have to like sit on it and stuff? Before?
Yeah,
I had a good friend of mine who's a very well-established like actor. Her name is Jessica Clement. She doesn't care. I love that bitch. But we've been friends. So we met doing Seussical, my first ever thing. She was 12 and I was 9. And
you were 2, I think we said.
Yeah, I was 2 actually. And we've been pals ever since. We've never lost touch, and we've only gotten closer. I love her to death, and I love her sister Amanda. Anyway, she did. It's out now. She did an episode of The Surrealtor, which was like a Sarah Levy show.
Sarah Levy.
Yeah,
amazing.
and she was actually saying that like she loved the set. Like everyone on it was super kind, but like the environment was like really tense. It was like very early on in like filming during the pandemic, and like you were talking about like taking your masks off in between like takes. She's like, I never knew when I could take it off, and like the makeup person had to like ask the PA if I could take my makeup off or take my mask off so she could like touch up my makeup. Like it was very it was really tense, and everyone made it as like warm as they could. So I'm glad to hear that it was more relaxed on your show.
Yeah, like I wonder too, since you've been like on set recently, like before this week that you had, like how did you stay in character amidst all of these protocols, you know? for Working Moms or for anything else you're working on?
Yeah, probably the wrong person to ask because I hold the term character pretty loosely.
Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
maybe can I like try to jump on this and ask in a way that I feel like you'll respond to?
Oh, okay, yeah,
Okay.
please.
We really do share the same brain.
Yeah, he's like my guide through life.
It's so fitting you have the same mic.
Yeah, we're talking the same mic right now. How did you stay like focused and in the headspace of the work and the scene?
I mean, it's not like I'm doing things that are particularly demanding of me. I'm not doing like my kids just died.
Yeah.
It's pretty light.
But you have like work goggles.
Yeah,
I think.
right. It's
Luke,
a funny way of putting
you
it.
do.
Yeah,
Is
I
this
like
a
that.
metaphor or
I
a
like,
real
yeah,
stuff?
Oh no, he doesn't.
I have literal
he brings
goggles.
No. Luke, when Luke's working,
Yeah.
it's
Really,
very
if there's a lot of
much.
chlorine in the air.
He's
a different version
Working
of a
Moms is
mask.
underwater. But he has work goggles in that like which I love about you and I admire about you and I learned a lot from you working on Pandemic, like doing this. But when Luke's working, he's working. He's focused. He's serious, not taking himself seriously, but taking the work and the situation and the job seriously, which I fucking love about you. So maybe the question is like, was it difficult to keep work goggles on when also juggling all these other protocols and like your mask? Like, did it fog up the goggles?
Or did it not affect it at all?
Yeah, I think
Can we just take a moment to talk about how I talked about the mask fogging up the goggles?
that was
pretty
really
smart.
good. That
Okay,
was a
thank
great
you.
metaphor, and you utilized
Okay,
it.
thank you.
You
And,
wove it throughout.
and now answer the question.
Please take on hostess.
I think it probably like in my brain. Like, I don't think so. But then I kind of having been lucky enough to go like right at the beginning, and then have something right in the middle. Well, not in the middle, but like late December,
Oh.
and then also to have a couple weeks ago, and then last week, like kind of have little pieces of all throughout that. Yeah, I guess as I think about it, there probably was a little because also. You made a good point that Jessica had said, like about the tension in the air.
Yeah.
We were all worried and we didn't know, and that I suppose fogs up the work because you don't want that extra like you're saying you want to be focused on the work, and serious, but not take yourself seriously. It's hard not to take the world seriously though when you're like, oh, I don't want to make anyone sick, or there's this exactly. There's tension in the air. People like barking about masks when people forget because everyone's so cognizant of it.
Well, and also
and as
being like new, like I'm saying, like it was our first professional things, and like for you, it's like there's also that added thing of being like, I don't want to step on any toes. Like I am like minnow in the pond here. Like everybody here knows what they're doing. I'm just doing my best to like not get away.
That was my bigger. That was I think was more on my brain. But then as I look and go like, oh, but actually, once the protocols everyone got more comfortable. They didn't get relaxed, but everyone got more comfy with them. So there wasn't that tension in the air. That was a lot. Yeah, I think that did actually help, and I think I can clock that as I look back. Here's my question for you, Sarah. What do you think about this? Like, what is your thought on Zoom auditions? Because you were talking about Zoom auditions, self-tapes. Would you rather we go back to live auditions, or do you like the self-tape?
Well, I've never done a live audition, so I don't.
But
well,
for theater,
for theater,
yeah.
I get, but like I wonder. I've never done like a film, like an audition for I've done like a couple commercial auditions in person when I had another agent, but I didn't really go out for like any.
Yeah, same actually. I never did like a scene.
I had to do like hand slates.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know the answer. I feel like if I'd had a whole bunch of experience auditioning in person that wasn't going like this and then leaving the room.
It's just so everyone knows it was she showed both sides of her hands.
Oh
to
yeah,
demonstrate
You do when you
I did like a
auditioning for
Chex. I did a Chex commercial that went terribly.
Chex the cereal?
Yeah. I think putting in, for some reason, I like the way I look on Zoom much more than I like the way I look on like the back camera of my phone, which is what I used to film my
Well,
tapes.
it's less high quality.
Interesting.
Everybody always looks better in high quality.
Yeah,
Like,
that's why,
good
because you can't
quality.
see me as well, so I look better.
It's true for everyone though.
No, for
like
sure.
it blurs out. Yeah.
For sure. There's just something about Zoom where I'm like, ooh, I like the way I look.
Do you feel like you've had to default into liking self-tapes or Zoom auditions because you haven't had that opportunity? Like, I wonder if it's just what we have to do now. And for me, like, I've even just like put out of my brain being able to do a live audition right now, because I don't want to go through that like disappointment or something like that.
Yeah.
I just know that the build-up has been so long since I've done a live audition. I've never done a live audition for like a part on a show. So I know that the first time that happens, God willing, it happens, I'll probably just feel like petrified, because I've been spending so much time like, I would have loved to have met these casting directors for the first time in person. Just because I hate slating. I think that's the thing that gets me about tapes, and like even Zoom auditions is like, I hate, for slating is essentially like, you say, hi, I'm this height, and I'm from this agency and from this part of the world.
Thank you for that.
And like my agent, the wonderful Karen Bernstein, was like, Sarah, you sound a little bit like you don't want to be there in your space. And it's true. I don't want to.
I'm always
Nobody
telling
does.
Luke when we self-tape together, I'm like, you have to do the slate again, act like you don't want to be dead. Like,
Yeah,
because
it's the worst.
It's hard. I hate it too. Mine are terrible.
But to answer your question, I've just been rambling. I think I've done my best acting in self-tapes as opposed to like Zoom auditions. And also the Zoom auditions that I've had haven't been like super lengthy. Like it'd be like, I did one for like Hot Zone, which is like a HBO show, for like intern who brings the letter to the person. And like I did one for another show that I can't say because I signed an NDA, and it was like 3 lines. So like but then the tapes that I've done have been like lead on series, like part in movie, like substantial guest star role on this. Like it's been stuff that I could like really sink my teeth into, and I've like enjoyed that more. So I think thus far I prefer a self-tape. You know, I prefer being able to be like, oh, that sucked, I'll do it again. But if I had a perfect world, I would like to do auditions in person and like see them with my whole face and body.
There's something so special about that, like showing my entire body to someone and not just half of me, like knowing that I can like give them fully my whole self, and then they can decide.
And
yes
I don't have to show them my whole body by like going like up and down with a camera.
Oh yeah,
like they do it. You know what I mean? I don't like the editing process of the self tape. I think that's that's where I get a little like is when I have to watch all the takes and be like, oh, I hate my face angle here and there. So I guess with the Zoom audition, I don't have to worry about that. But I don't know what I prefer. I just don't like auditioning. I would like for them to look at my headshot and say, we know she's really good and she looks like the part. Here we go.
They probably already do. Like, and it's such a sad truth of like auditions.
Well, even just to get an audition, like every time I get an audition, I'm like, okay, they like me. They really like me.
I've got this idea that I keep wanting to propagate, is that like I think for self tapes, I don't mind. Like self tapes are you got to see somehow. I think there should be a limit on like the number of pages they can have you do for a first audition. I think I want to do well in film and TV, so I could do well enough to change that. I feel like first audition should be a maximum 2-3 pages, and then callbacks. Then have me do whatever, because I know because invariably they're gonna watch you say like 4 words and go, oh, they don't read the way I thought they did from their picture. No. But I'm like, so why did I film the 9-page thing for you? Like, do that in a callback when you've gone like, oh, I like the sound of their voice. I like the way they look. They present how I thought. Great. Let's do the callback with the 9 pages.
The amount of times literally Luke and I, because we tape together a lot, have like showed up and been like, great, so I do have 11 pages today, and I got it yesterday, and I have to be done tomorrow morning. And like,
it just is.
It's
not quite. I think as respectful of the actor's time, and so because the actor's not being paid for those auditions.
Yeah,
so
no.
I think that's something that we should all, if anyone out there who is listening to this and is a person in power, if you agree with my position there, then we should all talk about that and try and make that happen. I'm happy to be proven wrong on that, but I haven't heard anything that I quite buy that disproves that.
It'd be interesting to talk to a casting director.
Yeah, I had an audition where, and it's very specific to this particular show, but I had to do, it was 5 scenes, and I had to do all 5 of the scenes, and then they wanted me to do those 5 scenes again, but just improv, like, because they want to see, it's like it's like a mockumentary type of a show, so they want to see like what you do with this, because like the main players on that show like are always improvising, so like the day players and the guest stars that they bring on. And you know what? You know who got that part over me is Lauren Collins.
No way.
Yeah,
your favorite reader.
My favorite reader. So it's just a small world, but yeah, it's interesting the amount. I agree with you. The amount of work that I'm finding I have to do for these like tapes are like, there's no way that you're watching this entire thing, you know? So why not, like you said, just give them like 2-3 pages? Because you get a feel for somebody after, you know, X amount of...
On the callback, have me and, you know, the 4 or 5 other people do the 9 pages. Then I'm like, hey, if you're really interested in me, happy to put in that work. No problem. You got to know if I'm right for the part. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
First
a lot
audition,
of
I don't know.
Sorry.
What's it?
The first one, yeah. A lot of the dance auditions that I've done online have just been improv for us, or you know, put on a song that we suggested, and I want to see you move. So it's never been like, here's the choreo, learn it and perfect it.
Oh wow!
So
so it doesn't require that huge amount of prep that you're not being paid for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what we're saying about like they're gonna figure out right away if they like me,
like the way you move,
if they like my move, if I look like my headshot, all that stuff. Like, and that's been really nice because I know that I'm gonna give them myself fully. Again, it goes back to like showing my full body to that person. Like I want to be able to do that. It's a little different with dance, I guess, because I have to be like full bodied. But yeah, I think I'm wondering what's going to happen depending on the project going forward. If we're going to require Zoom auditions forever now, or just did live, or both.
I think Zoom's here to stay. I think it also just saves the casting
directors
a lot of money. Yeah, I think they've realized that like it's much more practical to do them this way.
Practical.
I, as much as I would like to go to like Milestone and audition there.
The restaurant?
No. Yes. I thought that at first too. I was like, here I go.
I'm such a dancer when I go with you guys.
I love it.
It's a casting studio. That a couple of like really prominent Toronto casting directors like do a lot of the casting out of.
I see.
And maybe I'll never go back there again. But, you know, we'll see. I think I'm just trusting the process.
Probably callbacks will be in person. But yeah, for especially for large roles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think day players.
No.
Yeah, I don't. I think it'll be self-tapes forever and for always.
Is that a sad thing as like theater people and people who have auditioned mostly in person at school and stuff?
I mean, honestly, it is a bit like we're talking about like the respect for the actor's time and work and
right,
stuff. Like
yeah.
when I was auditioning in person again, just for commercials and stuff, like before even graduating, I'd bus all the way out to like Leslieville from where Studio City, even where I was living, and I'd step in the room and like show my hands and eat a chip and go.
Yeah.
And like,
Jesus.
Which I was excited to be doing. I was like, oh, I'm doing it, you know. But I would much rather eat a chip on Zoom in my living room. Yeah. So for things like that, like I'm happy to do that self tape or like, you know, if I'm doing a scene with a person for like a large role, like that might be nice. But hopefully some discretion can be used. You know, casting directors aren't idiots, we like to think. So
No, they're not.
No, they're not. So I don't know.
I think as long as the casting directors keep seeing you, you know that like even if you're not booking something, even if you're sending your self tape and like don't hear back or have one callback and never hear back, like you send your thing in, they see you again for something else, you know that they see your worth, you know that that they like they haven't written you off. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's just something I'm holding on to is like they're continuing to see me for roles that I would be overjoyed to play, roles that I feel underqualified to be auditioning for. You know, I think that's just a testament to my amazing agent who has a great relationship with these casting directors. But it's just a trust of the process and just having faith in whatever that there is like a path for you in this industry, and it's just a matter of the right thing, the right time. The right person who sees you and knows who you are.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I feel like I think that's so true. And knowing, I think, knowing where you ought to be with a really clear head and sort of saying like, oh, these are good parts for me. These maybe aren't as good parts for me. And, you know, it doesn't mean we can't all stretch ourselves, but like, I think that's important, is to know that if you can position yourself correctly and have as accurate a view of yourself as possible, that you're going to put yourself in really good stead to allow all these other things, like what luck is. What do they say? Luck is some percent something.
So preparedness.
Timing and being in the right place, the right time, talent, preparation, all that stuff. That if you do all that stuff, you're just lining yourself up that, the process, we should call this episode Trust the Process, that you're doing all the things to let the process do its thing, as long as you're positioning yourself correctly.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult to do that when you are broke or when you don't have anything going on and really want a job to work on. Like, I think most of the time when I'm not trusting the process is when I'm like putting my ego first and being like, no, I have to get this. I'm right for this part. Why the fuck did they not cast me and they cast someone else? Like, that jealousy starts to come in, or like just truly like superficial anger. And I think with this lull, this hiatus, this whatever you want to call it, the pandemic, the panini, whatever,
Panasonic,
that's a new one. I feel like I've tried as much as I can to quiet that voice, quiet that ego, trust the process, trust that whatever is happening in this moment is what I need and what is going to teach me something about, the long-term life that I'll live as an artist.
Let's all say it together. Trust the process.
Even if the process is auditioning for the same part as your really good friend Izzy and her getting it over you.
Sometimes that's the process.
You know what?
I'm sure the process will be reversed, and I will trust it then.
Yes.
Or maybe one day we'll be in a production of Arms and the Man.
Together
forever.
And you'll both be excellent in it.
One day.
It's funny. I was just talking to someone about an audition that I did, and they said like, they described it as that I owned the room, and I was like, well, that does not sound like me at all. That sounds like the last.
I would never imagine you saying that.
No, and I was like, I can't even imagine
unless you physically bought the
room
square footage
with my enormous amounts of wealth.
Yeah, you're wealthy.
Very wealthy.
My dad owns this hotel.
My daddy.
But that, and I was like, I don't really understand that. And we kind of talked about it, and I went like, oh, I think I get it. I think it is that, it was that I feel like I went in and I wasn't saying, this is my part or anything like that, any of that ego stuff you're talking about. But I did kind of go in going like, if you want this version of the part, this is what I have to offer you. This is everything that I have. Take it or leave it. If
your
it's not
preparedness,
best for
you came in with everything you could, and you're like, if they don't want me, then this is all I can do for them.
Yes,
right?
and exactly. And so some of the things that I can do to sort of like prepare myself to trust the process is like, I don't drink the night before auditions because I know that I get hungover really, really easily. So I just don't do that. And I make sure that I know my lines because I'm not good at reading off the page. It's not a skill. Like, it sounds like, Sarah, you don't find that works for you. Oh, no. Doesn't work for me either. So I just make sure I know the lines and all that stuff so that I can go in and say, like, look, take me or leave me. And if I'm not the person for your part, for your, this production of this thing, don't cast me.
Do you say that in your slate?
Yeah, that's my slate.
Hi, I'm Luke. From Toronto. I'm with X agency. And by the way, if I'm not right for this part, don't cast me.
You will not get me right for the part. I have a limited set of abilities, and you're seeing all of it right
now. I will refuse.
He does it at the end as a little bit like, thank you for watching. My name is Luke Kimball. Side effects may include Side
effects may include self-deprecation.
I've got this funny thing too, like with this reading I'm doing now. Well, I actually kept trying to put Michael Chim up for this reading that I'm doing 86 Me, which I'm so happy to be doing because I love the play and I love the part. But I do think Michael Chim would be really good for this part. I think he would do it. Yeah, I think he'd do it really well.
Like, listen.
But Jackson was like, no. Jackson doesn't know Michael, and does know me, so it worked out better for him, and he thought I'd be a better fit. But
You're
I'm like,
a similar type to Michael.
Yeah, I'm bargain bin Michael Chim. I am discount
you
Michael
better
Chim.
Stop.
That's true.
Thrift store.
Everybody, just so you know, that is true.
Everybody, listeners,
it is.
It's actually true. If you go to Walmart, there is a bin where Michael Chim and Luke Kimball stand, and Luke just
Is
has
the
a
discount.
sign
Yeah.
that says clearance.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, that's true.
It's like Baltimore for a bunch of actors.
I kept trying to Jackson, we like to joke that I tried to talk him out of it, and it's not that I want to talk, but I want it to be the best thing, and what I know is I can offer you this thing, and that's what I think, to go back to the point that I'm getting at, is like that I don't think I owned the room, but I did own, like, hey, this is what I have to offer you. You know, hopefully I'll get better. Hopefully, this is my audition, so hopefully it gets
This is
better.
your opening night
Please,
performance.
yeah, please. But you know, this is my version of the thing, and this is what I've got. That I can own.
Yeah.
That may not be what you're looking for. It might be a big swing and a big miss, but I can own that. I can own that I prepared, that I know that I did what I could to get the most rest that I can with what's going on in my life and all of that. And the audition was like right in the midst of pandemic play, so it wasn't a lot of sleep for, you know, but you know, I wasn't drinking, like all the things that I could do. I knew the part as well as I could.
This is
that-
86 Me you're talking about.
This one was actually for the Zoo Story.
Right.
The Zoo Story, which I want to
Zoo
talk
Story.
about.
Oh
But
my gosh.
does that lessen the pain of rejection?
Yeah, it does. I did, so one of my auditions for Harry Potter, I did it, and I did, it felt like it all came together really last minute, and like they wanted me to do another scene that I hadn't seen. It was a long scene with a big monologue, and I got it the night before, and as we said, I'm not good at reading off the page, and so I put in a lot of, the most work I could over one night that I had to prep for it, came in, did this new scene with this monologue, and it's the best audition that I've ever done. Like that's as good as it'll ever get. And I think it was just that I
So you rented the room.
so I rented the room.
He subleased it.
Yeah, I subleased it.
Jonathan Larson's musical was about that, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it was. I did everything I could, and I laid it all out there. And I thought, like, okay, it's not the definitive performance of that at all. I would hopefully get better, but everything that I could give to that, I did. Like, and so I left it being like, if I don't get this, it's because I'm not right for the part. And I'd rather find that out now than find that out on opening night in front of, you know, 1,500 people. Like, that's at least 8 people. That would be much worse. So that actually does lessen the pain of rejection, that I go like, look, this is what I have to offer you. If that's not right for your thing, it's not about me. It's about this thing. It's bigger than I am. Like, whatever the piece is, that's so much. Don't squeeze me. Don't, like, square the circle peg to put me in your thing. If I'm not right for it, the play's gonna suck. Like, don't do that to any of us. Don't do it to me, and don't let me do it to you. If I'm right for it, I'll give you everything I can just so I can show you. And yeah, it does lessen the pain of rejection, actually, for my money. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, you know, rejection sucks. Like, it really does feel like such a personal attack, even though I know it's not. Like, I know
It's the farthest thing from it.
casting thing, you know? But every time that I have been rejected for something that I really just love, I, like, realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't have put so much pressure to get this role. And so, yeah, I like what you're saying about giving what you can in that moment, because it's a version of the character, it's a version of the show that might work.
Because casting directors they don't go into work every day saying, I can't wait to not cast all these people.
Yeah.
Like, they want
They
to
want
find
to,
somebody
yeah.
and go, oh my
Yeah.
God, done. My job, like, there we go.
Totally.
I'm you know what I mean? Like, so it's, that's the mindset that I like to go into auditions with, is like, they're looking for the right person.
Yeah, their job is to send
So
the
all I
director
can-
10
yeah.
excellent people.
All I can do is just, like, present
Yeah.
my abilities, present my personhood. And if it's not what they're looking for, like, then it's not what they're looking for. But I think, like, I don't even consider it a rejection at this point in my
Good.
Good for you.
You know.
Yeah.
That's so great. And I think, you know, I lay out this ideal mindset of, like, that I'm disassociating myself from the product of what my audition was and from what the end product of the show needs to be. I'm disassociating those things in the ideal scenario. Also, it doesn't mean that I didn't bomb my last Harry Potter audition and then fucking kick myself for
I
it. 'cause
remember you
was
talking about
was
that.
like, guys, I
I
didn't get it.
decimated it. It was it was the worst audition I've ever done. It was so terrible.
So is the reason you did 37 auditions because they kept just, like, sending you up the pipeline?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. And I think no, it wasn't actually 37. That's hyperbole. It was a lot. It was a lot of auditions because they need to make sure
the perfect amount of auditions.
Yeah,
we love
and it was great. It, actually, genuinely, I'm not just gassing this thing up. It was a great room, and it was so fun to keep doing them because they're such a great group. But it's something like that. There's so many moving pieces to it that I'm like. So many people have to look at that and look at it truly, and this I think is what solidified it, is like it's not just about me. It's like, does Luke work with the other person who works for the other leads in the show? Well, who's playing Harry Potter? Who's Luke's dad? And who's playing Luke's mom? And the people that that were announced when the casting went out in March are so good. And it's like, if they look the way they look and I look the way I look, could I potentially be their kid to a believable?
Can that world be built?
Can that world be? And I just happened to run into my stage mom. For that one, who was cast back in March when I was as well. And she could be my mom. And she's the sweetest person, Trish Lindstrom. And she's so sweet and kind. It was like, oh yeah, our vibes. Like we immediately met and like we were so...
You hit it off.
Yeah, we hit it off, for the the 10 minutes that we were 15
and
minutes we were chatting.
And Harry Potter is actually being played by Lauren Collins.
Oh my God.
Not true. Don't look that up.
But it was like, because they put so much effort into that and they got to know everyone so well.
I don't envy casting directors' jobs. I think that is a really difficult thing, especially when you don't know the person who's auditioning. Like you have no prior experience about what kind of work they do.
That's the downside to losing the in-person.
Yes.
I love not having to lug myself out across town. That's a great thing, but you don't get that FaceTime to be like, oh,
hi, I'm Bri. This is
and
my
that's
favorite.
my bread and butter, man. I am say what you will about me as a person. I like to think I'm pretty nice, but I make a damn good first impression. I'm good at being charismatic for the first 4 meetings, and then you get to know me and you're like, oh. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm great at the friendly, the friendly thing, and I'm great at pretending like I don't care. I think that's like a skill that I've honed, is like walking in and being like, hey guys, like, how are you? Good, good to see you. Like, see you soon.
It's a social
to just throw it away, to act like I'm throwing it away, not that I'm like.
Do you listen to Armchair Expert? No, sorry, we talked about that. Pardon me. It's called Smartless. Smartless is so good.
Another great podcast. Listen to this one though, and then go on.
Yeah, this one, then Armchair Expert, then Smartless.
Yeah.
But Jason Bateman always talks about sexy indifference in auditions.
Sexy indifference.
I think
that's the
I
sexy
try
indifference.
really hard. I do my deep voice, because when I talk, when I get excited about something, my voice gets really high and I start to sound like a little girl, and then when I'm relaxed, it's very low and and pretty nice. So in rehearsals, in auditions, I'm like, do your low voice, do your low voice. I'm always telling myself that, don't let your voice get squeaky, because it gets squeaky pretty easily.
That's interesting.
Anyway, just the story of my life.
It's not been my experience with you, Sarah, but...
You've never heard me, talk like this in a rehearsal room?
I've never thought, oh boy, her voice got squeaky. That has never occurred to me.
That makes me feel really good. Because
good.
every time I listen to myself back, I'm like, oh, there's a squeaky. There's a squeaky.
Never.
Okay.
Not one time.
I do want to talk a little bit about Zoo's story, because I just recently saw it, Luke, and it is an interesting... the way that you've been doing it, where you flip coins to cast yourselves in what role you're going to play that day or that night. It's so much improv. It has to be so much improv. I know you know these characters, and I know that, you've learned both parts so well, but, I don't know. There's days where I'm like, I don't really want to play this part today. I would rather play this one. What was that for you?
I'll try to be really brief, because I feel like I've monopolized way too much time.
We're gonna wrap up soon for sure, but I want to talk about it because
I'll be so quick. Let's do it. I wish there was something we could do to promote it, because it'll be closed by the time this comes out.
I know, yeah.
But anyway, it's really good.
Directed by Robert Morrison and Katerina Fialos.
They are both so great, and Ben Yoganeth is also in this one, and they're all such Kat and Robert are so smart and thoughtful, and they're such a great. They create such a great fun room where you can you can be not good sometimes, and boy was I not good a lot of times.
You gotta be able to not be good though in the rehearsal.
Yeah, if you're working with me, you got to accept not good.
No.
But no, you're exactly right. You have to, otherwise you're not gonna find anything useful if you're struggling with perfectionism.
It's something I learned directing. is like you want people to take the big swings and misses.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the perfect cast member. So you, as a director, want to create a room in which people feel like they can make mistakes.
Yeah,
Like,
you're so good at that. You do a great job of that, of like being so receptive
making
to
mistakes.
of being receptive to the actor's swings and being like, yeah, I see what you're swinging at, and turning that back to them and really accurately reflecting, oh, this is what you went for, and this is what worked in there, and try this, and redirecting it to something more functional if it needs that.
I think so.
You're great at that. But yeah, so in that way, so as Robert and Kat, they really let me be so bad and I was so bad for so long. I had a really tough start of the process because I was doing, so we were gonna do the whole thing. They wanted 11 rehearsals to learn both parts of this play, and one of the parts has a 6-page monologue.
It's so long, and it's like a lot of word salad. Right?
Absolutely, it's word salad. Well said. It's absolutely like, and thoughts come out of left field. And so we're gonna do that, and then I booked 2 days on something while I was after I'd already said, like, let's do this, and I was like, friends, I can't do that. I can't learn this part in 9 rehearsals now. Like, we lost 2 out of 11. That's a substantial percentage of the rehearsal
like
days.
15% of your rehearsals.
Ooh, quick maths.
Probably wrong.
That's what Dax Shepard does. Quick math.
Quick math. Yeah, we won't fact check that one and say you were right. But yeah. So anyway, and Ben is so talented. Ben is such a gifted actor, and I've admired his work for so long. So these are all the components that made me like, I got, and I love the play. The play's so great. The Zoo Story. Anyway, so the coin flipping thing. For a bit, I was like, I don't think we can do this. Like, I literally think I can't do Jerry. I can't do the 6-page monologue word salad guy.
The fuck out.
I was like, I'm not good enough.
Word salad guy.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. That I almost was like, I think what I should say to them, and I was like planning how I would go about it, to be like, I think I should just do the smaller part. I think that'll be better for everyone. But we got through it, and they extended the rehearsal process just because it was better for us. And when we got to the final day, I was like, oh, we could have done it. We could have done it with some dropped lines and some like really sloppy acting. But in the end, I'm like, no, I don't want that. None of these people who are all really, really hard workers and care so deeply. Like, we all relate in that way, that we care so much. All of us in that project, and all of us in this project, we know that feeling, which is why you're all such a joy to work with. But yeah, that it ended up being so much for the better that we ended up pushing it. But I guess to answer your actual question, like, what was it like to do that, and was it
like literally 2 seconds before you're about to start the show?
Yeah, we
like
figured
that
it.
To me was like, what? And obviously I saw it when it was casted and set and everything.
Yeah, that one we knew.
And like even Ben was like, well, this is a short conversation, let's just get started.
Yeah.
But like for you to 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Could be this one, could be that. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe because I haven't had much experience with that, like being able to flip into a completely different like they're so different, these two characters.
Yeah, they're so different.
I would argue you don't have a small role being Peter. I think there's so much of like reacting you have to do, listening to run at the end.
Yeah, big sprints. Almost get hit by a car sometimes. I almost get hit by a car. when Bri saw it.
It's an old play. The play's over.
It's an old play.
Also,
but when you leave the scene, like that is a huge moment of like what. That's an emotional moment too of you being. Anyways, but yeah, I just think that was such an interesting way to do it. And hats off to Robert and Kat for figuring that out, because I think it's just like it kind of helps it too. Like, we're in the park, it's kind of informal. Like, it really helps it to feel kind of a little bit more of a like, let's see what happens, you know? Yeah.
It's really a lot of trust. It's just a lot of trust in those two being like, okay, they'll tell us if we're not telling a good story, that they'd be like, it's not working.
Right.
Trust in that. Trust in Ben, and we trust each other. I think I would hope he would echo this, and we've talked enough about it. I think he would. That I think we trust each other so. Just so implicitly. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Thank you. That it's just so, we just know no matter what happens, we've got each other's back. We had a thing the other day where we skipped a page of the play, and there was some covering that had to happen to make sure all the information got conveyed. But it was like, no, we got this. We just trust each other enough that it was like, no, we can get through this, and we did, and nobody knew. And it's just great to be like, you know, silently having the conversation of like, hey, we've got each other. Both of us are like, hey, we'll figure this out. We got this. As we both, like, during the other person's line, we're mulling back, okay, what do we miss? What do we have to go back for? And it helps that we both know the play, both parts. So that was useful.
That's magic, those moments.
Yeah. We'll wrap up for sure. So 86 Me is coming out.
Yep,
soon.
86. That one. Oh, damn.
Is it going to be out before October 4th?
That'll be next week.
Oh, okay. Well, but you have that going on. That's amazing.
Everybody keep an eye on 86 Me. It's a play
Yeah.
that Jackson wrote, and it's gonna come back. It'll be put on somewhere. We have some plans. We got grants out for it already. It's gonna go up one day.
Dead Raccoon.
Dead Raccoon. Check out Dead Raccoon. That company's still gonna exist. It's a really great play, and Jackson is an extraordinarily talented playwright, and so this play will come out. He's got 2 more as part of a series for this play is a part of, and he'll have many more plays because he's really, really gifted. So
Fantastic.
look forward to that.
Fantastic. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
I don't know. I kind of do Instagram, but
We update the
boy,
big
is
things
it.
on your Instagram.
Yeah.
At Luke Kimball Acting on Instagram.
Yeah, that's probably fine.
Perfect. Izzi, where can people find you and what do you have going on?
You can find me at Izzi Nagel on Instagram. IZZI. It's a palindrome. Nagel. Check me out. Yeah, and I have some things like the shows and things that I talked about coming out soon.
Absolutely. Let me know when they do, and then
Can you say the title of one of them?
Yeah, I have a tiny part in this movie called The Swearing Jar, which was a lot of fun.
Canadian play, right?
Yeah, it started as a Canadian play,
Oh,
and then they
sweet.
made a movie out of it.
And Izzy was in the movie.
And I was in it barely, but I was in it, so that'll be coming out. It was the first movie. Movie is fun. To be like, I was in a movie. Tiny little
I've never
bit.
been in a movie. I wanted to be in a movie. That was my dream for this year. I wanted to be in a
Be in
movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then another show I'm on is coming out in December that I can't talk about yet, but like check my Insta. I'm sure I'll post about it when I can. So
Yeah, and let me know when it does, and I'll repost and everything on
my
the
God.
podcast Instagram.
Okay.
And Sarah, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Sarah_Shoshana, SHOSHANAA. That's how you spell that, 2 A's. You can also follow the company that I am a part of, Theater 44, which is where we did Pandemic Play, at Theater 44. You can also feel free to watch the movie Women Talking. I auditioned for it and did not get the part. So just watch that show and watch that movie and imagine that I was in it and just know that I did audition for it. So I do not have any projects coming out like Luke and Izzi, but just like I had to say that so that I feel adequate.
But
You are adequate.
and you audition more than both of us combined, do we think?
maybe
Yeah,
Sarah's
you
the audition
You
queen.
audition a lot.
But I have not booked anything, so
you will.
that
It will
says
come.
something. I'm
It
sure.
will come.
No, it doesn't.
No, not at all.
So-
Thank you.
nothing.
Thank you so much for
Aw.
all being here.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you for coming on your first time. Welcome back to the pod, Sarah. Thank you so
Returning
much.
guest.
You did this before?
Yes, I'm the first returning guest.
Yes. No, you're not. But yes.
Oh, I'm not. Fuck.
No, you're not the
Wow.
first. But I'm glad to
You
have
are
you
a
back
returning
and to
guest.
see the
Yeah, it's a
progression
pleasure.
of, from last time.
I've listened to some episodes. I gotta go back and listen to yours, Sarah.
Listen to it. It's really great.
And thank you, Bri, for having us.
Yes,
it's
thank
so
you, Bri.
amazing, and I love that you're doing this
It
podcast.
was nice
It's
to
such a
see
great
you
thing.
guys after having worked together, like
Absolutely.
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's so nice to reflect. Please come back anytime when you have things going on. I would love to talk about it and promote it. And let's say it all together. Trust the process. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Trust the process.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Versations podcast. Please help the podcast community continue to grow by clicking subscribe or follow on your podcast platform and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at ArtVersationsPod. You'll find photos of the guest you just heard, plus highlights and quotes from each episode. Let's keep the Artversation going. Send in a DM with your thoughts about art and any questions you might have for guests. Special thank you goes out to Jen Marquez and Maxim Bartnowski for their contributions. And thank you, listener. Till next time.